Nothingness, in the sense in which modern nihilism understands it, is a concept unique to the Christian tradition. The non-being of various Eastern traditions is an entirely different, a positive conception. The nearest they approach to the idea of nihil is their obscure notion of primal chaos. God has spoken only obscurely and indirectly to other peoples. To his chosen people alone has he revealed the fullness of truth concerning the beginning and the end of things. To other peoples, indeed, and to the unaided reason, one of the most difficult of Christian doctrines to understand is that of creation ex nihilo, God's creation of the world not out of himself, not out of some pre-existent matter or primal chaos, but out of nothing. In no other doctrine is the omnipotence of God so plainly stated. The never-dimmed marvelousness of God's creation has its foundation precisely in this fact, that it was called into existence from absolute non-existence. But what relation, it may be asked, has nihilism to such a doctrine? It has the relation of denial. What, says Nietzsche, does nihilism mean? That the highest values are losing their value. There is no goal, there is no answer to the question, why? Nihilism, in a word, owes its whole existence to a negation of Christian truth. It finds the world absurd, not as a result of dispassionate research into the question, but through inability or unwillingness to believe its Christian meaning. Only men who have once thought they knew the answer to the question, why, could be so disillusioned to discover that there was no answer after all. Yet, if Christianity were merely one religion or philosophy among many, its denial would not be a matter of such great import. Joseph de Maistre, who was astute in his criticism of the French Revolution, even if his more positive ideas are not to be trusted, saw the point precisely, and at a time when the effects of nihilism were far less obvious than they are today. There have always been some forms of religion in the world, and wicked men who opposed them. Impiety was always a crime, too. But only in the bosom of the true religion can there be real impiety. Impiety has never produced, in times past, the evils which it has brought forth in our day, for its guilt is always directly proportional to the enlightenment which surrounds it. Although impious men have always existed, there never was before the 18th century, and in the heart of Christendom, an insurrection against God. No other religion has affirmed so much and so strongly as Christianity, because its voice is the voice of God, and its truth is absolute. And no other religion has had so radical and uncompromising an enemy as nihilism. For no one can oppose Christianity without doing battle with God himself. To fight the very God who has created him out of nothing requires, of course, a certain blindness, as well as the illusion of strength. But no nihilist is so blind that he fails to sense, however dimly, the ultimate consequences of his action. The nameless anxiety of so many men today testifies to their passive participation in the program of anti-theism. The more articulate speak of an abyss that seems to have opened up within the heart of man. This anxiety and this abyss are precisely the nothingness out of which God has called each man into being, and back to which man seems to fall when he denies God, and in consequence denies his own creation and his own being. This fear of falling out of being, as it were, is the most pervasive kind of nihilism today. It is the constant theme of the arts and the prevailing note of absurdist philosophy. But it is a more conscious nihilism, the nihilism of the explicit anti-theist, that has been more directly responsible for the calamities of our century. To the man afflicted with such nihilism, the sense of falling into the abyss, far from ending in passive anxiety and despair, is transformed into a frenzy of satanic energy that impels him to strike out at the whole of creation and bring it, if he can, plummeting into the abyss with him. Yet, in the end, a Proudhon, a Bakunin, a Lenin, a Hitler, however great their temporary influence and success, must fail. They must even testify, against their will, to the truth they would destroy. For their endeavor to nihilize creation, and so annul God's act of creation by returning the world to the very nothingness from which it came, is but an inverted parody of God's creation, and they, like their father the devil, are but feeble apes of God, who, in their attempt, prove the existence of the God they deny, and, in their failure, testify to his power and glory. No man, we have said often enough, lives without a God. Who then, or what, is the God of the nihilist? It is nihil, nothingness itself, not the nothingness of absence or non-existence, but of apostasy and denial. It is the corpse of the dead God which so weighs upon the nihilist. The God hitherto so real and so present to Christian men cannot be disposed of overnight. So absolute a monarch can have no immediate successor. So it is that, at the present moment of man's spiritual history, a moment, admittedly, of crisis and transition, a dead God, a great void, stands at the center of man's faith. The nihilist wills the world, which once revolved about God, to revolve now about nothing.